لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم رب زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. وصلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. آمين. Okay. We were looking at Hocking's passage, Allama Iqbal's quotes here, and we had gone through the passage line by line. Now, I probably will go through it again to see if there's anything else we need to discuss. Let's start from here. In fact, it is the nature of feeling. And I said he hasn't defined feeling, so it's hard to know what he means by feeling here. But generally, we agree that feelings and emotions are not just subjective things, but they also are the basic fundamental source of knowledge. Obviously, the knowledge we gain from feeling is a different type of knowledge on which our discursive knowledge is built. And the knowledge gained through feeling can also be wrong, can also be erroneous. So, I mean, that point, Allah hasn't discussed that point. It is the nature of feeling to seek expression in thought. So it's not just a question of I don't think it's just a question of the fact that feeling gives us something X which is expressed in thought then. And this can happen, but when we are talking about feeling in a more fundamental sense, I think, and this is just speculative, I haven't provided, it's just, what I'm doing here is just expressing my own intuitions. Feeling, I think, is a primordial source of feeling and emotions and all things, source of knowledge. And one sort of knowledge which you gain through feeling, I think it provides the data, basic data. Probably, your background assumptions, your holistic sense of the world around you and yourself is gained through feeling, on which your sense information and your discursive knowledge is built. That's why my overall view. But I think at some point we need to look at it in a more precise way. Okay, it would seem that feeling and idea. And by idea, I think he means a thought. So, sort of, he is working with what we can call expressive view of feeling. That thought expresses explicitly what is implicit in feeling, which it does, but I don't think that exhausts the role of feeling. And as I said, the role of feeling is a bit more fundamental than this. It would seem that the two, feeling and thought, are non-temporal and temporal aspects of the same unit of inner experience. In that sense, you You have feeling, and then in idea that feeling is expressed temporally. So that's the basic point, and that's why he's quoting, he's quoting Hocking to, I don't know, as a support of this view. But on this point, I can't do better than quote Professor Hocking, Hans Hocking, who has made a remarkably keen study of feeling in justification of an intellectual view of the religious consciousness. So probably what Hocking has done is, so what he's saying is we can't dismiss religious consciousness as subjective merely because it's based on feeling, because even in our general knowledge is based on feeling, and our intellectual or our discursive knowledge is based on feeling. So in a similar way, so in that sense, religious experience doesn't differ from our knowledge in general in any fundamental sense. So what is the other than the feeling on which feeling may add? So feeling is the start which end in thought. I answer consciousness of an object. So feeling is a source of knowledge. Feeling is the instability of an entire conscious self, that which will restore the stability of self, not within the border but beyond it. So feeling, like thought, is transcendent in the sense that it search for the object, for the truth. So it's not subjective, merely subjective in that sense. Feeling is outward pushing, the idea of outward reporting, and no feeling is so blind as to have no idea of its own object. But that idea is more vague and not discursive at the level of feeling, I guess. As the feeling possesses the mind, there also as the feeling possesses the mind, there also possesses the mind. As the feeling possesses the mind, there also possesses the mind as an integral part of the feeling, some idea of the kind of thing which will bring it to rest. Okay. So basically, so this is Hawking's idea of what feeling is, and a lot of what he's saying makes sense. So feeling, but what I have said is that's not all what feeling is. Feeling for him is instability of an entire conscious self. In the face of something acting on that conscious self, and obviously that consciousness is at the implicit level as well as the explicit level. So what disturbs this conscious self? The environment, which include your own self as well, because it's self-reflective, but human environment, animal environment, cosmic environment, seen environment, unseen environment, it's all acting on this conscious self. There's no doubt it is. And this action of the surroundings disturbs this concept, disturbs in more neutral sense, in a same way in which if you throw a stone in a pond of water, it disturbs it. Similar sense, conscious self is disturbed at different level, at the implicit level, at the explicit level, at the level of feeling and emotions, at the level of senses, at the level of discursive thought, etc. And then it reacts to that object. It can be a specific object or it can be the object as a whole. So in that sense, the experience can be discursive, particularistic, or holistic, etc. And that pushes that disturbance. So then feeling through this reaction acts and push outwards towards that object and try to take hold of it in its own way, in which senses and discursive thought helps it. And once it is able to grasp that object, whether that object, whatever level that object is, it comes to rest, that it has the knowledge of that object at some sense, or the hold of the truth in some sense. So that's what the basic idea I'm getting here, which I don't reject, but well, I think I'll add a lot of things to that, because I think feeling is not just reactive. I would say prior to all this, our self is embedded in its environment. That's one thing out. So the operations of Hocking and Alam Iqbal's are describing are possible because we are already embedded in our environment. We are what Heidegger would call being in the world. This self is a being in the world, and this basic embeddedness gives us our background knowledge, our background assumption. That's one thing. And second thing is obviously the absent thing is from which only Islamic view of knowledge can fill in, is that yourself at the level of feeling can be correct or incorrect at various level and in various to various degrees. And that's why purification of your feeling and emotion is important, that your feeling reflect the reality as it is. Obviously we can't never grasp reality as it is, because our self is never fully purified except for the prophets, those people. But to the degree our feelings are purified, there's they reflect the true knowledge, because the true knowledge is the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's light doesn't reflect as it is in an impure heart, impure feelings and emotions, etc. So as a feeling possesses the mind, there also possesses the mind the integral part of feeling, some idea of the coin of thing which brings it to the rest. So we have basically a feeling without a direction is an impossible as an activity without a direction. So intentionality of a sort is part of feeling, as well as conscious thought, but there are obviously different types of intentionalities. That implies objective, but object of feeling is generally not as specific and particular as the object of thought, because that's why the knowledge which we gain through feeling is holistic. So there are vague states of consciousness in which we seem to be wholly without direction, but in which cases it is remarkable that feeling likewise is likewise in abeyance. For example, I may be dazed by a blow, neither realizing that what has happened nor suffering of pain, and yet quite conscious that something has occurred. The experience wait an instant in which the vestibule of consciousness, not as feeling but purely affect, until idea has touched to identify the course of its response. I think this state is more akin to reactive, because when reality overwhelms you, then it sort of stops your faculties from, sort of jams your faculties from conscious thought to senses to feeling. So I may be dead, instead in the vestibule of consciousness, not as feeling but purely as a fact, until it has ideas as different. Okay. At that same moment, it is felt painful. If we are right, feeling is quite as much an objective consequence. Yeah, but their objectivity is of different type, and their relation to object is of different type. I would say objectivity of feeling is more holistic, more implicit. Idea is more specific and more explicit in that sense. It refers always to something beyond, yeah, the present self and no existence save in, and has no existence in directing the self toward that object which the presence, in whose present its own career must end. Well, that is only part of it. How would we know? Okay, I think that's our second reading of Hawking's passage, and I think we did we are a bit more clear about what he is up to. So next time, inshallah, we can move on to Alam Iqbal's remaining commentary in this fourth point. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.